Welcome to Hispanic Biz Success Stories. I'm Homero Galicia. We have the pleasure of sharing stories of businesses with business owners who built successful businesses to learn about them and how they built their business. Today our special guest is Mr. Raul Zamora, the president of El Paso Parking Lot Striping Company. Mr. Zamora, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure you took time. Thank you for sharing. So how old is El Paso Parking Lot Paint Striping?
I started the business under another name back in '89 when I was in high school.
In high school?
Yes, so it's quite a bit of time now.
Well, '89, you're a young man.
2018.
So you've been striping parking lots for over 20 years.
Yes, sir, I have. Yes.
So let me ask you. You grew up in El Paso first.
I was born in Ciudad Juarez.
Okay.
And I came to school here for elementary in El Paso, and our family moved back over there. So I've been back and forth, but I've been here in El Paso for over 20 years straight.
So you've lived on both sides of the border.
Yes, sir, I have.
So you know the different mentality. Are there two mentalities on the border?
There's different cultures, even though we're mostly Hispanic here in El Paso, but there's a different dynamic, and you can appreciate that, and you can enjoy both sides. Even though I haven't been to Ciudad Juarez in quite a bit of time, but yeah, it's a difference.
So your business, how many employees do you have?
We got 8 employees. We run lean and mean, like they say. Very good team we have, very professional, and it's good to have a good team behind you.
Okay. So what high school did you go to?
Went to Bel Air High School.
Okay.
Yes.
And were you a bingo in school or?
Yeah, we had our moments. I was growing up, and that's how it started. The business. I hang around with 2 or 3 of my friends. Never been into big crowds, but that's how we started the idea of doing something to help out, mostly ourselves, right? To have money in our pocket, and that's how the idea of painting started.
You were in high school.
Yes.
And what did you do?
Well, we did several things. When I was in high school, I used to see how I could generate money. And during the weekend, we would sell stuff at the flea market. And one thing led to another till we said, you know what? What are we going to do that's a little different? And I told my other 2 friends, well, let's paint the emergency curb numbers for the addresses of the homes. So we picked an area, which later on about a house on that street we started. And we started knocking on doors. So how are we going to do this? Simple. White paint, black paint, with a shoebox and chalk on one hand. Of course, I love sales, so I went knocking on doors, and my friends were behind. And if I put an X, that meant black background with white stenciling. And if it was a check mark, the other way around. And that's how we started. And people would say, well, how much? Well, ma'am, we're trying to help our parents, we're from the local high school, and we're trying to generate some money to help our parents, It was for our spending, of course. And we set a goal. We're not going to stop till we reach X amount. And that's the way we started every Saturday.
Oh, so how much were you out to make every Saturday?
We back in the day, $100 was a lot of money.
Yeah,
it was a lot of money. So people would be nice because we were very young, and they said, "Well, how much is it, son?" "Well, ma'am, whatever you would like to give us." So some people would give us a few bucks, some people were a little bit more generous. So the goal was to reach that. I don't know how often we hit it, but we enjoyed what we did.
$100 for the 3 or $100 each?
It was whatever we made. We divided in 3 parts.
Okay, that's neat. That's neat. And so, did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have a sister. I'm the oldest of the 3. I have a sister, Patricia, and then I have a brother, David. He's the youngest, and that's all.
What do they do now?
My sister is a homemaker. She's happily married. She has kids. My brother's also, he works with my dad, and he also has his own business. And I guess we have the sales mentality. He's a good salesman as well.
Your dad, what does he do?
My dad's still working. He owns a small company. He sells industrial supplies, mainly to Mexico.
Okay, from U.S. supplies to Mexico?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, maquilas, and he has an established clientele over the years, which he built good relationships with, and he still provides services over
And
there.
what's his name?
His name is Raul Zamora,
Raul,
senior.
Okay, so you're junior.
Yes.
And so, what's your father like?
My father, he's a very strong man. He's still working, as I mentioned. He has good values that I admire him for, and he's a family man, man of religious backgrounds. Very hardworking and very determined. He can set his mind on a goal, and he can go after it and pursue it, and that's what I learned from him.
You saw that in action.
Yes, yes.
And your mother, what is your mother like?
My mother's been a homemaker all her life. As you know, they come from numerous family members. So she has a family of 9, I believe, and so does my dad. My mom does not drive, but her family is very, very close. So she's always somewhere. A sister goes picks her up, or her brothers, but she's been always there for us.
So what's it like growing up in El Paso and Juarez? Because when you, as a young person, you spent time in both areas.
It's very interesting. When I was growing up, I saw that dynamic in the culture over there. When we used to live over there, all the neighbors knew each other. They would ask for favors. They would go and knock on your door and ask for milk. Right here is very different. Right here, it's if you see your neighbor, you say hi from a distance, because everybody's, they go to work or they have things to do, right? So that's a difference as far as the social aspect. As far as the working, I started working here when I was young, but I see that people here are more, they're more involved in their work, So there's got to be a balance. I try to balance my life in that aspect, even though it was never that way. Back then I was working. Now it's trying to find a good balance.
What was your mother like? What did you learn from your mom?
My mother gives, my mother's dad lived by the Mexican saints, and my mother was constantly reminding me of those saints, which they apply now,
The dichos.
Los dichos. So por algo se dicen los dichos. She would remind me, this is how this is supposed to be. So she was always a reminder, and for us to not lose focus. I was always listening to my grandpa, and my mom's a constant reminder of his character, very strong.
So what's the big dicho that you remember that guides you today?
Al ojo del amo engorda el caballo. So in other words, you got to be there. You got to be participating with your business in order for it to grow or to run smooth.
Interesting. And so you say that you were in sales. How did you know you're good at sales?
Well, my father's been in sales all his life. We all are in sales, whether we realize it or not. And I've listened that the biggest salesmen out there are the young kids, right? The babies, because you tell them no, and you tell them no again, and then eventually they have what they were asking for. So when you realize that everything in this world revolves around sales, it opens up your eyes. And a lot of people say, well, I don't like sales, I don't like to sell. Yeah, you are in sales, but you believe it or not. You get up in the morning, you comb your hair, you choose what to wear, and you're selling your image out to the public. My background in sales is mainly because of my dad. I admire him. And like I said, I started selling stuff when I was in high school. And I was always looking for a way. As I grew older, I got in the car business. And that was a very good experience. That was a learning experience for me. It helped me out a lot. And I had some good mentors that at the time, it might not have been appreciated from my part, but as time went by, I said, well, you know what, that's why they were telling me this. And things started to make sense, you know? And that starts developing your personality or your future if you start following some good advice.
Yeah, but having a good mentor is one thing, but a good mentor has to have a mentee. I mean, somebody that's willing to learn. So you were willing to learn.
Yes.
Did that come from your father too, or?
Yeah,
mom?
I guess it's came from both of my parents. My dad had run his business for many years on his own, and I think that came from them. You know, the character. I think I'm the best of both parts when it comes to that aspect, and I appreciate that.
So what kinds of jobs did you have when you were young?
Very interesting. I started doing, like I said, selling stuff at the swap meet, painting curb numbers. I worked at a warehouse, stocking. I wanted to be in sales, but they didn't let me be in sales. My dad was working at that place. He says, now you got to start somewhere. So I learned the dynamic from the warehouse up to will call or out in sales, right? So after that, I was thinking about what can I do to not just paint numbers on the curves. You know, that lasted maybe a few months. So I went and bought a striping machine. So my dad, with his contacts, put the word out there, and we got a maquila here by Zaragoza, and we went and painted it. And it looked so good. I said, you know what? This is what I'm gonna be doing.
So you're still in high school, or?
I was still in high school at the time. I had a part-time job because I was in one of those programs it was an early release, and that's when I started working at the warehouse. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna start doing this striping business.
So how much did that paint striping machine cost?
It cost very little money. It was a very simple machine that exceeded the cost in the first job. So
wow,
yeah,
that was pretty good. So you started finding parking lots to paint the stripes on.
it was not hard at the beginning. It was not easy at the beginning. It was extremely hard. Things happen for a reason. I started knocking on doors, and there's things you encounter. You need to talk to the decision maker, So that was kind of hard because I didn't have any background on how to deal with that. So we knocked on doors because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. The more doors you knock on, eventually somebody's gonna say yes. So we were just relying on that. It became hard. So I put it in the back burner, and I wanted to expand my sales experience. I said, you know what, I need experience. What kind of sales job can I get? So then I went knocking on dealerships. And of course, they didn't want to hire me at the beginning. And I went and I knocked on one dealership, and this gentleman said, do you have any experience in car sales? No. Well, we were looking for only experience. So they shot me down. I went to another one, they shot me down. I went to the third one, and I couldn't believe how easy it was. I said, these guys gave me a real hard time. And this gentleman, the minute I walked in, he looked at me, he says, you're hired.
Really?
And he tells me, "Do you want to know why I hired you?" And he says, "Because you're wearing a full suit."
Oh, I see.
So they were looking for presentation, presentable car salesman. And I stayed. I went into a very intensive training, and I learned a lot.
How old were you when you started?
I was 19.
Really?
19 years old.
On a major car lot?
On a major car lot, 19, 20, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you would meet customers walking on the lot?
Yeah, and that's something that it's kind of scary at first, even though they trained you extensively. I think we started like 15 guys. At the end, it was just 3 of us.
Wow.
So I remember that I went out and I was ready. They trained us for about 30 days, I think, because it was very extensive. 30, 18 days, it seemed like a lot. I went out to the lot and everybody's already experienced and everybody's talking to clients or customers. And I grabbed my first one and I let them go. I didn't touch bases with management. So they called me, and Raul, what you do? Oh, well, they were just looking around. Raul, do you know how much money it cost this establishment to bring every single customer in through those gates? Pay more attention. Not in those words, they were a little bit harder words. So they, and that's, life is ain't all nice. You know, you got to learn somehow. So I went back there, and I was afraid to grab another customer. There was nobody left. Everybody was busy, and there comes a customer, and I was the only one there. So I grabbed the customer. Guess what I did? I didn't touch bases with the desk again. The reason to touch bases with the desk is because maybe they know, and they usually do, more options than what you do, because you're new. So if you let go of a client that they're paying money to bring in, it's you got to use the tools that are offered to you, and one of them was management. So I let the customer go without touching bases with the desk. And that was when I realized a very good lesson. They called me again because, of course, they have cameras everywhere. Back in those days, I guess they had cameras too. Management says, Raul, what happened to that client? So, Raul, get your stuff and leave. I thought they were firing me. Then I heard, don't come back till you are ready to follow instructions. That was a Saturday. Dealerships closed on Sunday. And I was thinking, I'm not going back. I can't do this. You know, I had all this training, and I could speak to people, and I thought I was outgoing. But when it came to offer a product or to cover a need, it was different. So I thought about it all weekend. So Monday morning, I picked up the courage and I dressed up. I showed up. There was a meeting. Management looked at me. When the meeting was over, says, I'm glad you made it back. You have character. And they put me with one of my first mentors. This guy was very successful. He had a career. He was an architect, but he was selling vehicles.
Really?
He was very successful. And every customer, he says, Raul, the first thing you're going to do is you're not going to carry business cards. Why is that? He says, because if customers want to leave, you come get me. Let me get a business card, and you come tell me. And he would come out and talk to the clients, and amazingly, he would sell the car. So it was a 50-50 commission. 50% is better than nothing. So I learned my lesson that I was not considering options. I was not offering, or I wasn't asking the right questions. And this life is all about communication, about asking the right questions. So I learned, and I loved it. Ever since then, I was intrigued with sales, even though I knew I liked them, but when I couldn't make a sale, that would just revolve on my mind. Why? I didn't offer the right vehicle or the right product, or I didn't ask the right question. I didn't cover the right need, and very, very good learning experience.
So once you started selling, you liked it?
I loved it. I loved it.
And how long did you do that?
I was in the car business for franchise dealers for about 10 years, till I became 30 years old.
Wow, wow.
And
franchise dealers are
The like the local dealerships, the Ford dealerships, the GMC dealerships. I jumped, to a few here and there. Uh, I was a good salesman. I considered myself, so the doors were opened. That gentleman that didn't hire me at the beginning from one of the dealerships, eventually we worked together, and then he ended up working for me. And we would, remember when you didn't want to hire me back then?
Yeah.
Now he was working for El Paso Parking Lot after.
Oh, really?
The general manager, yes.
So, so you were making money as a 20-year-old
Yes.
selling, and what did you learn in sales that through that process that are lifelong lessons?
What did I learn in sales? That you gotta adapt to your client. You see, in sales, a lot of salesmen are wanting to sell the product. They sell the product, they're very knowledgeable about the product, but they forget about the most important thing, which is the person they have in front of them. When I would teach salesmen later on how to sell, I would have them focus on the person. See, when somebody goes into a department store, or they go into the dealership, or they go anywhere to buy a product, they get approached and they say, do you need any help? No, I'm just looking. Even though they do need the help. But sometimes you gotta bring their walls down. Make them feel comfortable. I would talk to a client or a customer and say, you picked a very nice day to come look at cars. They're not expecting that. They're expecting, how can I help you?
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
Yeah.
So you take them on a different, they know what they want. You just got to listen to them.
Interesting. So after you were well, I guess you became what, sales manager or something on the car?
Eventually, we were in a situation that on the showroom floor where a very experienced salesman had a situation. He couldn't cover the needs of the family, and I was young, and I made a comment which he didn't like, and management says, well, I could close that deal. So Raul, can you close that deal? Well, let's see you do it. So I went over and I spoke to the family, and I closed the deal. So that made an impression on the sales management team, and I became a closer.
Okay.
That meant that if the salesmen were having a situation with customers that they couldn't come to a closing, they would have to touch bases with me first. So that's what I did, and I was very young.
Wow. So, and you enjoyed that. So after that experience, what did you get to? What did you go to?
Well, after that experience, I knew that the goal was for me to have my own business, and I wanted to learn as much as possible. One of my mentors there, I had a vehicle that I was driving that somebody stole from a parking lot. So I went to work in the other side of town, and the manager there took me to work with him. And management used to get a demo, but he says, "Well, you're not getting a demo. I'm gonna go pick you up at your house, and I'm gonna take you all the way over there." So he picked me up every morning. Couldn't believe it. Take me miles and miles to work over there. But along the way, he would listen to motivational speakers. At the beginning, I didn't like it, but as I grew older, that's what I do now. Try to follow that. So it kind of stuck on me.
So you listen to tapes as you're driving?
Yes, of course. I'm always on my vehicle, so I take advantage to educate myself. I listen a lot to Jim Rohn, and a bunch of other ones, and that's the way I go, or audiobooks. So it became a habit. It's very rare when I'm listening to the radio if I'm driving.
So are you always learning?
every day we try to learn something. If you go through a day without learning one thing, it's a wasted day.
So you're learning because you had a desire to get into your own business from young.
Yes.
Because your father was independent. You saw that or you just couldn't work in a larger organization without.
I wanted to do what made me happy. You know, there's different measures of success, and I realized that very early. Of course, we like to get paid well for what we do, but I enjoy sales and having a little bit of control over my time. Even though there was a time in my life where it was work, and it seemed like I was a workaholic, but there was still a way to manage time, and that's what I was going for.
So then the next step is for you after selling cars on.
I decided to open up a car lot. It was not that I decided to immediately, but I took a break from the car dealerships, from the franchise, and I took about a good year. But I always had the same phone number since all this time. So my customers or clients were calling, "Hey, Raul, I'm looking for a car. I'm looking for a car." So I said, "You know what? I'm going to buy a car." I had 2-3 cars in the front of my driveway, and it gave me a break to realize what I wanted to do. A friend of mine was going through hard times, and he says, "You know, I have very low inventory." It was a little car lot. "Why won't you bring your cars over here and I'll sell them for you? You know, pay the commission and we make a little bit of money." So I said, "Yeah." So I left the cars there, and one thing led to another. After a few months, I had my own car lot. So I went back into the car business, but now it's mine.
How did you like that?
I loved it. I mean, it was busy. It was what I loved to do, and we had a real good time. Real good time.
So all this time you're learning sales, and you learn you're good at it, and now you own your own business.
Yes.
Dependent on sales. So that was a great learning experience.
Yes, it was.
Well, Mr. Zamora, it's really interesting to hear how you grew into your business. And we're continuing our discussion today with a special guest, Mr. Raul Zamora, the president of El Paso Parking Lot Striping Company. Thank you, Mr. Zamora, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We've learned from Mr. Zamora that he, out of high school, he started working on car lots, selling cars, major car lots. Did that for 10 years and then opened up his own car business. At the same time, he was painting parking lot stripes. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So here you are. You're on now your business. You have you're saying about 8 employees.
Yes, sir.
And who are your what kind of customers do you have now?
Well, now we have anywhere from the mom and pops businesses to general contractors or chain stores. So we go from small to big. You know, we are known as a striping company because that's the way it was presented, or that's the way we started. Now we are into complete parking lot restorations. So that opened up a different type of clientele. We can still go and refresh the ADA compliant stalls or spots, fire lanes, for, let's say, the local restaurant, for a small restaurant, or we can go and pave or seal coat or do the preventive maintenance. So we do everything from striping, signage, paving, to a complete restoration.
From, like you say, small parking lots to full commercial commercial lots.
Yes, sir.
And you've been doing that now since?
When I went into business for my own car lots and shut that down, I went 100%, and that's when we started. Well, that's been ongoing for 6 years that we've been expanding and taking up a little bit more of the market as far as paving.
But you were doing that though while you were in the car lot,
Yes.
selling cars.
Yes, we were striping and we were doing, the preventive maintenance.
And so that was in the background.
Yes.
Why did you keep that in the background?
I was, for some reason, I guess, I was thinking that when I went knocking on doors, when I was very young and I started doing the parking lot maintenance, it was going to be a successful business. But for some reason, I still needed to learn more. So I guess the universe gets you when you're ready. I had to go to the car business so I could learn more about how to deal with clients, how to deal with rejection, how to deal with many different aspects. So I enjoyed that very much, and now that I went full force with the parking lot restoration business, a lot of the disciplines, a lot of the knowledge that I learned made it a little bit easier. Not that it's easy, but it's, you
So
apply
did
those.
you know you had those knowledge gaps?
Of course, we all learn. Some people call them failures. I like to call them learning experiences.
Ándale.
So, yes, and you need to learn how to apply them.
Do you have an example?
Well, of course, sometimes the client will tell you, you know what? No, you gotta understand that if they tell you no, it's for other reasons. Maybe the price is too high, or maybe it's not the right time. So if you say no, sometimes it's not the right moment. So you ask the customer, when would be a good time, or why? You just ask why and say, well, no, the price is too high, or you're learning in the car business. Well, it's because it's not the right color. So it goes different ways. We used to have the 3 M's. The 3 M's, is it me? Maybe I'm not doing my job. Is it the money, or is it the machine? And you can turn those around into every other business and apply them in every business. Why are we not covering your needs?
Is it me? Is it the money, or is it the product?
Or the machine, or the product.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And so how long did you have your own car lot?
I had the car lot for another 10 years.
Okay. So you sold cars on a major lot for a franchise, you said,
Yes.
for 10 years.
Yes.
And you were good.
Yes, I like to consider myself as being good.
And then you went into your own lot for 10 years, and you were good?
We were very, very good. We turned our inventory. I had about 20 cars on one location, and I turned that inventory at least 20, sometimes 60 cars, so about 300%. And I had friends in the car business say, well, that's nearly impossible. Or how can you do that? Of course, the cars that I had, they were not like the franchise had. I had another location where there were newer cars, but the lower end cars were selling pretty fast. So it was very, very good. We enjoyed the time there. We learned a lot, and we transitioned into what is Paso Parking Lot full force now.
So, but you were a pro at what did you learn running your own car lot?
What I've learned off of the experiences I have is that you gotta be persistent. If you find something that you're passionate about, so a lot of people define success many different ways. You find what you're passionate about, and you find a way to make it work, and that's gonna be the key to success. Because success, if you make a lot of money, yeah, you're successful, people think, but you're successful if you're doing what you love and you're passionate about.
So, Mr. Zamora, what are you passionate about?
I'm passionate. I take my kids around El Paso every now and then, and we pass by one of our job sites, and I tell, look, Daddy did that one. We're beautifying El Paso, one parking lot at a time. So we leave that behind, and I feel proud, because we cover somebody's needs. It's good curb appeal. It's like wearing a nice suit, a building with a dirty pair of shoes, so that's what we present.
That sounds like a vision statement. Improving El Paso one parking lot at a time.
Right, yes.
That's neat. How many children do you have?
I got four kids. I got a 24-year-old, a 22, 14, and a 9, and they're all males.
Wow. Have you shown them your business? Do you?
Yes, the older one showed interest, and he's learning here and there. The other one's still going to school, my 22-year-old, and the two little ones are still in the one's going to high school next year, and the other one's in elementary.
And you went to what high school?
Bel Air.
So you grew up in that neighborhood around Bel Air?
Yes, my parents still live in the area around
Wow,
here.
that's fantastic. And so why did you leave the car lot business and go into full-time your parking lot striping?
It was a time for a change. It was for time management, and I saw the potential. At that time, I was realizing my kids were growing, and I didn't have enough time to spend with them, and the quality of life. So I moved into El Paso Parking Lot full force after shutting down, and managing time. Of course, at the beginning, it was kind of difficult because you gotta start letting everybody know that you are gonna be taking care of their accounts personally. So I started taking care of old clients. Telling you know what, we're here, we're expanding, we're doing now this and that. So at the beginning, it was more time invested, but we were able to manage time a little bit better. Of course, when you're a business owner, you're working even when you're sleeping, right? So you're always thinking of clients or situations that arise. But that was my reason to go full force.
So your reason was more to have time with your family.
Yes, my kids. Yes.
So so the auto business was just time consuming for you.
It was a different dynamic. Every business has different levels of stress, so I guess that was the reason behind we're going a different route, you know. And I always had that. I was thinking, you know what, El Paso Parking Lot can be more than what it is now, because I mean, you drive and there's a need. I mean, everywhere you look to the right or to the left, and there's a parking lot, you know.
So it's less. So running a business
Yes.
is a pressure and stress,
Yes.
regardless. Is that
Yes.
fair?
That's correct.
Okay, but this was less stress.
It was different. In the car business, this is what I didn't like about the car business. I mean, of course, I love the sales aspect, but you will sell a car, and you're selling machines. It's hard to predict the future of a machine. So people don't like car salesmen too much because they feel they've been taken advantage. And this other business that I have, you provide a service, customers are very happy, and you know, they recommend you. And of course, in the car business too, you know, it's just the very different dynamics.
But you enjoy what you're doing.
I love what I do. Yes.
So what kind of challenges do you face in growing your business now?
What kind of challenge? The challenge that I think we all face is, first of all, understanding our client or our customer and covering the needs. The challenge is to, since I am selling different techniques, I guess, in the car business is you got your client in front of you. If they don't buy right now, it's not because you didn't have the car that we're looking for. It's because they're looking for a salesman. They're gonna go down the street, right? So it's more hardcore. In this, it's more relaxed, but you gotta understand your client. You gotta be able to cover their needs. You gotta be able to provide a good service for them and stand behind your work, good ethic, and that's one of the challenges that most business owners encounter. Understanding their client.
And so what do you do to understand your client?
What do? You communicate with them. Sometimes you don't need to talk a lot about the product. You know, sometimes you need to show that you care to your client, and by doing that, they take the time also to understand your business, because a lot of the times when you offer, in this case, when we offer our services, the client doesn't realize they need it. They expect to see a big pothole in the front of their parking lot till they go and fix it, or somebody twist their ankle and they say, you know what, now we need it. At that time, sometimes it's too late. So yeah, so we gotta communicate and we gotta educate our client in order for them to make an intelligent decision later on.
So what are the problems they face if they don't? Why do people have to repair their parking lot?
Well, there's a city code as far as the ADA compliant. You know, it's very important for the parking lot stalls, at least those ones, to be well identified. So when you have those ADA compliant or handicap logos, ground stenciling, and signage, that makes it a lot easier for for people with special needs to identify them and park. And you know what? Our businesses, let's say a restaurant gives great service in the inside, the food is great, but it starts also out there. You know, make their customers feel welcome. So that's one thing. The emergency fire lanes, they gotta be nice and crisp, you know. So if there's an emergency, you know, the units know where to park, or the clients don't block that section. They call us often for that, so we can refresh that, and then we make an assessment of the property. We tell them, you know what, you have this, that, and we provide them a second or another alternative as to striping. So we can go and say, you know what, this is gonna develop into a pothole right here. You know, somebody might get down and twist their ankle like we were talking right now, and that becomes a liability. And doing the preventive maintenance not only beautifies the parking lot, makes your building stand out, and it's customer friendly, it more than doubles the life of the asphalt, saving the company big money in the long run. You know, so that's another reason to do it.
So you have competition.
Myself, when I look at myself in the mirror, of course, there's different companies out there. There's plenty of work for everybody. The biggest challenge is that person we see in the mirror, I guess. Making sure that you show up. When they call you, you show up. That's the number one thing.
So is that what makes you distinct? What is your outstanding quality?
I try to talk to every single client personally. I deliver the services personally, and if there's an issue, we take care of it. We fix it. You know, we give a warranty on all of our products, and that's what makes us different, I guess. We treat them like they're the most important person or business at that time, because they are.
So as a business owner, what is your chief responsibility?
My responsibility is, first of all, to take care of myself. You got to take care of yourself to take care of your staff. So what does that mean? You got to be present. You got to make sure you're clear-minded, that your employees are going to have a job tomorrow, the following month, in the future. How do we do that? And give good customer service. Ask for those referrals, you know.
So who's most important in your business?
Who's most important in my business? The business owner has to be the most important person. But you got to also understand that your employees are number one. Your employees are number one.
Why?
They're the ones that are out there making it happen.
And how do you interact with them? When you're face to face with your customers, how are you with your crews?
I visit with my crew. Just to give you an example, it's when we do a job, the guys are very identifiable. So we're doing a shopping center, let's say, they know who the workers are. We had a situation last week where we did a shopping mall over here on Stanton, and the lady I saw her later on, and she found out I was the owner of Paso Parking Lot. She came, you know what, the place looks beautiful, and your guy, one of the guys, my foreman, said that guy's excellent. I had a flat tire and he helped me. So they go the extra mile, you know, so that makes me feel good. And of course I complimented the guy and I told him, you know what, and I often get calls like that, you know. We adapt on the spot for the customer's need. She had a business right there in the shopping center. We try to be as stealth as possible, and want them to have good traffic flow, even though we're working on their parking lot, so they don't lose business. So we try to accommodate to their
Let me
needs.
ask you a crazy question. Sometimes I have a hard time getting in a parking place because they make them very narrow,
Yes.
and some are wide.
Yes.
So, do you suggest how wide they make their parking lot? Their parking.
Actually, that's a very good question. When I drive up to a parking lot and I see that situation, I know that it was not done by a professional,
Okay.
because the dimensions of a parking space are standard. So sometimes the owners want to modify, and that's when the expert, the professional, needs to live. You know what? You're gonna have this situation. They're not gonna be able to back out. They're not gonna be able to pull in. That's why there's standard dimensions for every stall, and that's why there's also where the ADA compliant logos need to be in, and which are van accessibles. So yeah, when you encounter those, they weren't done professionally.
There are people that do it without being professional. Then.
Well, if you're gonna do a service, you gotta have knowledge as to why for example, why the parking stalls are not that narrow, or what are the dimensions. Because there's people that go out there with rollers or with XY paint, and it doesn't last. So there's many different aspects.
So, what's your next step of growth?
My next step of growth, I guess, I'm network marketing a lot right now, and I'm changing or I'm making new friends. The sphere is very important, who you associate with. So we're making new friendships this year, and if a business comes from that, that's welcome. Yeah.
So, what new skills are you developing?
What new skills are we developing? We're trying to be more social, more friendly, I guess. Of course, in sales, you got to be very social, very friendly, but understanding and how to listen to people. So you can always sharpen that. So you got to sharpen your skills.
So, what message do you have as a business owner? What message about life do you share?
Well, the message is to have a passion, to be consistent. To be consistent, sometimes that beats knowledge.
What does that mean, to be consistent?
There's a lot of people out there that are very knowledgeable, but they don't do much. And there's people that have very little knowledge, but they're consistent about going and knocking on doors, and they're going and knocking on doors, and sometimes those people exceed or do very well. So if you have that passion, you're gonna have that drive. Find something that moves you. Find something that you're gonna be passionate about, and you're gonna do good. Everything else is gonna follow.
So where do you get your drive from?
Where do I get my drive from? I don't know. I guess from my parents. I love life. It's in you. I had to look in and see what was mine, and I think I learned sales was my deal.
Is that drive something you can pass on, like to your children?
Yeah, I think you need to tell people what is it that you're. I mean, sometimes what you're good at, it's not always what your passion is. So sometimes people are very good at stuff, but they don't feel passionate about it. So you gotta make a decision or guide them. After all, it's their own choice. It's their own. They're gonna pick their path, but I guess it all comes down to that, to passion, to what moves you. You gotta dig in, find out, talk to yourself, and take it from there.
So what is your focus now with your business?
My focus is to have El Paso Parking Lot grow a little bit more, and to give good service to El Paso, and have my guys busy. So that's the main focus.
So are you always knocking on doors?
We're always knocking on doors. Believe it or not, if you go through a day and you didn't make 2-3 stops and you didn't leave your business card I mean, you got to leave your business card, whether you're eating at a restaurant or you stopped to visit with a friend. You never know when that job's going to come or when that referral's going to come, you know.
But you've been knocking on doors since high school.
Yes, of course, yes.
And you enjoy you're not afraid of knocking on doors.
No, of course not. You know, you gotta learn from rejection, and you gotta learn when they accept your business.
So in building your business, you've built a life.
It's a lifestyle. Yes.
Can you describe that lifestyle?
It's a very interesting question. We need to learn, like we said, at least something every day. If we move our lives 1 degree, we end up in a different place that we were headed. So I listen to audiobooks. I try to eat the apple a day, right? So one discipline leads to another, Jim Rohn says. So that's my life. You know, I want to learn from you. I want to learn from the person I meet later on, and pick up the best things that can help me personally and in my business. So that's my lifestyle right there.
So why are those, for example, motivational things? Why are they important?
They're very important because you know, we all have a gut feeling as to what's right or what's wrong, but those are reminders, you know, and they give you pointers. It's like if you wanted to bake a cake, but you never had done it before. There's other people that have done it, so you listen to them. Right now we're living the information era that you go into YouTube and you can learn just about anything. So when these people are giving you advice and it applies, you know, write it down, you know, because it's going to come in handy. So that's very important.
There's a lot of information out there. How do you know what information is right?
You make a decision. You make an intelligent decision as to which one is gonna serve you good. There's a bunch of trash out there. You cannot feed your mind with trash. You know what comes in.
How do you know the difference?
Well, you got to understand where it comes from. You say, and who you talk to. You see, there's a saying that says, you want to know who a person is? How do you know who a person is? Yeah. Right? You say, well, a person is what they talk about most of the time. So you pay attention to, if you're hanging out with a circle of friends and they're talking, well, happy hour is going to be at this time, you know what? But if you talk to somebody that's talking about business and, you know, that's who you want to hang around with.
Yeah, my mother used to say, dime con quién andas y te digo
Los
quién
dichos
eres.
mexicanos.
So, you know, who you hang around with is important. So you've made a point to hang around.
We made a life change. I mean, when I was growing up, we encountered all that. You know, we were young, and as you grow older, you try to make adjustments, and that's what life's all about. It's not about being the strongest. The dinosaurs are not around, even though they're very strong. The ones that adapted are still here. So we try to make adjustments as we go.
So you've learned to listen, to adapt, to analyze?
Analyze, yes. Yeah, we need to analyze.
So what is it that makes a business owner successful?
Their passion. We go back to passion, their drive, doing what they love.
So people that aren't successful usually run into other kinds of issues, though, sometimes.
Well, the way I measure success is by doing what you love. There's people that are successful to our eyes, but they're miserable because they're doing something they don't like. So a successful person is the teacher that's in her classroom because that's what she wanted to do. You know, that's success.
And how to find that, right?
Exactly.
But you found it.
Well, I found it, and I'm here.
And it took you how long?
It's taken me still. You know, I don't know where life's gonna end, but it's a learning process all the way.
So your message is to live your passion.
Live your passion, yes.
Well, Mr. Zamora, I appreciate your sharing your story. You certainly do live your passion. Your business, El Paso Parking Lot Striping,
Yes.
is growing, and you're growing as an entrepreneur. Is that right?
That's the objective, yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been wonderful to.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Galicia.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Have a great day.